Thank you very much. Maybe we'll have to come back to you because I'm going to take only 3 issues from the wide spectrum of things that you've addressed now. I'll leave digitalization out, except to see the first problem of a differentiated market and how can we actually cater or function harmoniously with a differentiated market. The second one is actually, are we willing to pay for our content? Then some of this mess could be could be addressed differently, you know, because there is no such thing as a free television or free newspapers. You're paying for it by other means, but it's not evident to you. So, and the third thing is audience measurement systems. And I don't know if any of the panelists can say it, so I'm going to say it. The thing is that you know that NDTV went to court over the measurement system, and it went to court in New York. And the problem there is advertising agencies which are served, at least I don't know, they seem to be served well by the system that is in operation now. Also own the rating agencies is a very troubling situation for us. So I'm going to turn to Veer Raghav, who's done 10 years of television journalism in the North. He's put in a stint as senior editor of CNN IBN in charge of the South. And now he's for the moment free and free to speak, I'm hoping. So what does this TAM mean? And all the channels threatened to back out of it, then they went back, and where are we now? Actually, it seems really messy.
Having been in a panel before with Prakash, I was sort of, I know what I was walking into, so sort of got my Google open here. So, I just want you to, as you're asking me this, I just go into MRUC's website, which is the agency which does the Indian readership survey. Let's not get into television at the moment, in the first 2 minutes of the 3 minutes that I have. We just talk about print. The key intent of the MRUC is capturing relevant information on growing media and product ownership and consumption based on industry needs. The user for the media is the advertiser. That's how the fundamental genesis of entire readership or any survey goes, because it's the advertiser who funds that entire exercise. It's the advertiser who wants to know where he can put his money. And this is not a problem that we're discussing today. It happened in the United Kingdom in the 18th century, when the radical press, which led to the rise of the Labour Party, and it's been beautifully documented by Stanton and Curran in their essay, which has been quoted extensively in Noam Chomsky's propaganda model, so much so that advertising pressure, according to Noam Chomsky in his propaganda model, is one of the main filters which imposes pressures on news. Now, what they argue is very simple. Readership is important. What good is a journalist without a reader? What good is a panel without a topic to discuss? What good is a moderator without panelists? That's as good a journalist is without a reader. But the question is, when you have an advertiser wanting to find out your reader, then the advertiser wants to find the demography and the geography of that particular type of reader who has the purchasing power to buy something. All right? So if your yardstick for news is going to be reaching to that particular type of reader who has the money to spend, then the entire concept of assessing readership or viewership becomes flawed from a journalistic point of view, but it becomes right from an advertiser's point of view. So why is there this problem? This problem exists because, again, we go back to the 18th century onwards. It's nothing new. When at one point of time, newspapers were funded purely by donations of people who were readers or patrons of that newspaper. You take India or the UK or any other country, for example, the cost of publishing a newspaper was much less. Then the Industrial Revolution came out. The cost of publishing a newspaper went higher. People could not generate that much revenue from just the readers alone. So they went into and then the advertisers and the capitalist free market economy takes over to a large extent, where advertising becomes the key source of revenue. And Preet has already pointed that out. The question of monetizing content is something that is confronted. But it's just not about paying for news, because when you talk about paying for news, you mean that those who can't pay can't get their news. So it's not as simple as we say that as long as I have a bunch of subscribers, then I'm going to be able to get over the pressures of delinking from TRP and IRS. No, it's not that simple. Because even then, you're going to be producing news for a set of population which can afford to buy the news, right? So the question is that when you're measuring audience, whether it is for television, print, or radio, who is going to be doing that exercise? Is the reader willing to fund to ensure that he is part of that exercise to determine how many readers are actually there? Is the newspaper willing to do it? Is the state willing to do it? Is the citizenry willing to get involved in that? So it's not just enough for a few citizens who can afford to pay for news if you want news to be delinked from the concept of TRPs and advertisements. It's important for the citizenry who have the purchasing power to actually fund a news exercise for the entire population of the country. And only then you're going to be able to delink from this. It's already happening in some forms in the YouTube. If you go into the YouTube, there are shows like The Young Turks, which is shown some kind of revenue model where people are willing to subscribe for a particular show in the United States, where they're willing to buy it and they're able to make money, and that money gets reinvested in the process of content. So yes, as long as the news is not a free commodity, the reader understands that the news is not a free commodity, you're not going to be able to delink from IRS. But I go one step further. As long as the reader understands that news for the entire society cannot be a free commodity and not just for himself, news will continue to be linked with readership surveys and TRPs. How you get out of this trap, when you get out of this trap, is, I think, anybody's guess. But speaking honestly about it, every news channel, you can talk of ethics, you can talk of great values, but at the end of the day, without money, no journalist is willing to work, all right? I mean, he needs a salary. You need the money to produce news. So how are you going to go about the process of bringing that money in? At the moment, as Preet was saying, it's only advertisers, especially in India. The amount of advertising money that's going into news channels is just sort of offsets. In fact, distribution is considered a cost rather than a revenue source. Advertising is the only revenue source. And remember that it's the advertiser who's funding the entire rating. Whatever ratings you see, and Prakash, just one quick point, he was speaking about NDTV taking the TAM to court. All broadcasters walked out of TAM. It's not because they wanted to hold up great journalism. It's because their argument was that TAM was keeping the ratings low because ad rates would be low. So it's purely a business battle. It was no great ethical journalistic battle that anyone was fighting about taking on TAM. Every broadcaster wants that rating system. Every broadcaster wants that rating system because every broadcaster is in it for a business, and don't expect him to not be in it for a business. You as the reader want the news free. You as the reader want entertainment. You as the reader want a particular kind of approach towards news. The broadcaster will give you that. So only point that I increasingly become convinced about is that, and I go back to Mahatma Gandhi on this, it may be old-fashioned, but the only way you're going to bring about a change with the news system and delink it from TRPs and IRS is to bring about a social change, about a sense of importance to news as a society. And till that happens, you'll continue to get the news you deserve. And that's purely my own personal belief. And since I don't have a channel to report to at the moment, a journalist who is jobless, so I can be a little more honest about it because I don't have to get fired from someplace. So I guess that's about it.
So thank you, Veer. We are fortunate
that I don't have a job.
To have another non-journalist on the panel. So I'm going to step back a little from Veer Raghav's rather ruthless angle on it, because, see, he's saying, see, Mahatma Gandhi published 7 newspapers, 7 publications. You shouldn't call them newspapers. And there's no gainsaying that he could reach India. So there must be a higher purpose of news delivery. News happens, nobody needs to do that. But news to be delivered, there should be a higher purpose, I think. And I'm going to ask Dr. S. Raghunath to, because we are too much in it maybe, journalists, to tell us if there is shouldn't there be a public broadcasting or public print service of some nature for a country as diverse as India with so many diverse needs, so where nobody is willing to pay for bad news, for instance, right? So what should we do, you think? Please, yeah. How long will it be, sir?
2 minutes.
Okay,
How long do you want?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
Thank you.
So, I have a presentation not because you need to see any slides, but there is a very interesting piece of statistic which I think is of relevance to all of us. We know it, but where is boss? Where is he? That's right. So, you see, if you look at this population distribution across various groups, our country, as all of us know, comparatively is a very young country. And if you see here the projections starting all the way down from 2000 to 2015, you find starting from the 15 to 30 year bracket, and then if you look at 30 to 50 year, it's a steady thing, but it's the 15 to 30 year bracket which is very interesting. So as professionals who've lived their lives through news, they made some very excellent points. So it's all about the consumer. And the consumer profile in India is distinctly the ones who open a newspaper, earlier liked the newsprint on their fingers, and they feel that their life is incomplete if they don't start the day with a newspaper. And there are these young guys, including your son and my daughter and many others, who would like to see that on a smartphone or any small screen and talk about it but not pay for it. Right? So this is we all know this. So young guys, smart guys, some of them advise me all the time, sir, why do you buy DVDs and CDs? It's all downloadable on the net, right? So I'm the only stupid guy paying for things. So there is a change. I just want to make a quick point on this. So what are we saying? If we are talking about being number one, we are talking about very high scalability and penetration. Now, you want to be very scalable, you want to penetrate, you want everybody to look at you. That means, the second point is, you probably need to create an opportunity to deliver greater customer value. There has to be some uniqueness. All news which appears in the newspaper, as all of us know, is at least 12 hours old, right? We've seen it on TV, we've seen it on somebody's blog, we've seen it everywhere. So there is no news for us. So the question is that if we are in traditional media, then we got to do something more than just inform people. People now, I think, I am a consumer, so I can say that. And there are some excellent journalists sitting here. We only look at a discerning eye through the commodity of news. We are looking for definitive reporting. We are looking for a degree of objectivity. We are looking for a degree of perception which comes out of somebody's deep knowledge in a certain area. In other words, there is scope now to differentiate much more than before, because everybody can know everything in just a tap that they make on a screen. Which brings us to the last point, that if we ever want to look at number 1, 2, 3, the single most important objective is to avoid commoditization. And therefore, very, very knowledgeable journalists who have lived their life on the road, who have seen a lot, understood the kaleidoscope of this country, have a lot to deliver, and I think there will be some stars and not just commodity as we all think. More the platforms, more will there be hunger and probably some appetite to pay for discerning reporting and analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn to Anant Chiniwar, towards whom I could be a bit partial because, like me, he has a theater background. And he recently won the Best Playwright Award for one of his plays. For Anant, it has been a difficult journey, I'm saying. He won't need to agree. But he started with, he set a completely different standard of anchoring news programs, when he was with the Janashri channel. He's now with Suvarna News. And I have spoken to him in private, which I'm betraying now, that he's completely distressed about this need to be number one, need to be reductionist with sensationalizing news and sending it in 3 words, because that's all that fits on the screen. Breaking news and 3 words, and he's been very distressed about it. He tried to set high standards actually in his previous channel where they did not allow astrology, programs, for instance, super programs of Vastu or whatever, I'm sorry, rubbish stuff that comes, So he must actually elaborate a bit on the distress, because while Dr. Raghunath is giving a wish list, the problem for us is who is going to deliver that? How shall we deliver that wish list? That is the problem. So I'm going to ask Anant to speak about it a bit.
I don't have a presentation to make, but still I would like to stand up and speak because I want to stand up to whatever I speak. We hear that sound from there. This is what news genre is going through today, Entertainment is a bigger theater. Entertainment is happening at a bigger theater now. We are playing out at a smaller theater. It's a small world. And very often we need to outshout entertainment to be heard. We need to be loud. We need to be sensationalizing to beat competition from entertainment. Probably this applies only to regional language news channels, maybe not so much for English news channels, because English audience, I believe, are not hooked to 8 to 10 p.m. serials, mega serials, never-ending serials. So we are competing with entertainment, and at the same time we are giving out news, and we want to be heard, we want to be seen. Prakash gave me the topic of ownership of media, especially political ownership, political leaders owning news channels. May I dare say, I have worked with a channel that was owned by a politician. I think I should say with conviction that a channel owned by a politician is far less dangerous than a surrogate proxy channel. At least you know what to expect from this channel. You know who the owner is. You know what the owner's point of view is. You can always take the news emanating from such a channel with a pinch or a bucket of salt, according to your own conviction, your own viewpoint. So the moment I know who the owner of the channel is, who the owner of the newspaper is, I am prepared mentally to either accept or reject the news. But what about media whose ownership is not disclosed at all? It's not in the public domain. So, I'm of the view that as long as the ownership of media is there in the public domain, we need not have to worry at all whether it belongs to a politician or a real estate businessman or a media baron. It doesn't matter. What matters is to hold on to your own when you are working for a channel owned by a politician. See, journalism is not all about politics. Politics is not be all end all of journalism. There is so much more to it, so much more. In any channel, whether it is owned by a businessman or a politician, the pressure is usually on the top line, in the top 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 journalists. The other journalists are not going to feel the pressure. They are made immune to it, they're protected from it, because it is the top line that has to take responsibility for deliverables. If this top line believes in itself, if the top line has the conviction to convince the promoter that doing a channel, building a channel in a particular way is going to reward him in the long run.